Alright lads, over here on the NA version of the game, we have Sea Monsters Crisis in full swing, or you can call it the Morgan rerun event, but whatever you do decide to call it, I'm going to make sure that you are well prepared to taking down this event. And there's kind of a bit to go over with one. It's more meaty than you might think, but it's also not that big in general. I mean, there's like no point ladder or missions technically that you have to do. Although it does have the mechanic of, say, Summer 1's event, you know, those events where you have to go through, farm other materials that you then use to build up the stage that you're on. Also think of, say, Himiko's Guda Guda event, something like that. And so you do kind of want to be staying on your toes with this one, using your natural AP to be farming up these con guys, the little plushy guys that are in the event. Make sure you have a decent stockpile of them because you are going to need them to progress through the event. But before we get going and starting just dissecting our way through this event, if you could leave a like as I do prepare these guides and upload daily FGO content, that would mean a lot to me. And maybe even subscribe if you feel so inclined and if you find this guide to be helpful. But with that being said, let's start diving right into this, starting off with the event bonus. And as I just mentioned, you have those little con plushy guys that are going to be in the event that you have to farm, but thankfully you don't need a specific, say, gacha servant or an event bonus servant to get them. They're split into different classes as I'm showing on screen right now. So be mindful when you're going into a specific free quest, make sure you double check which versions of the cones are going to be dropping so you can bring an appropriate class to go take that down. That way you're being a little bit more effective. Now, for actual event bonus servants for the power mod and the bond bonus, you do have a few that are going to be rather helpful. The Trunk Sisters themselves are going to be very, very strong for the actual 90+ node, as there are two very large single target lancers that they can take down. So if you do pull for them, they will be immensely helpful in the 90+ node. But outside of that, Oreshkigal is going to be very good if you're doing buster farming. Same thing for Morgan, as you could pretty much bring her to any stage, as again, she is a berserker. Semiramis is okay as a farmer, but should be able to get through and push through the event with that 50% power mod bonus. Summer Melt, I think, is going to be very exceptional during this event, because the one thing that, say, NP1 Summer Melt really struggles with is her damage. She kind of has the Summer Mordred syndrome, where she can loop just fine, a-okay, get 100% of her NP back, but she might not actually take down the enemies if you only have her at NP1, especially with no gold foe investment, not max leveled CEs, no grails. But for this, she should be absolutely fine alongside Da Vinci Rider. So if you have any of the event bonus servants, outside of maybe min-maxing your party for the cone drop bonus, you should be fine just using all of them because the event is not all that super chunky. Moving into things that we're actually getting from the event, first and foremost, there is going to be the Wu Zetian buff. So if you do have her, you're going to summon for her on the second banner when Morgan drops in about a weekish. It's going to be a buff to her Imperial Privilege skill. Now, it's not going to be buffing the buff success rate, and it's still only going to be 38% attack and defense for 3 turns if you do get the buff off. But it is going to go ahead and add a party-wide 30% crit damage buff and a party-wide 10% battery, which, with all things really said, that's not all that bad. That's actually going to be pretty good if you are somebody that likes to use Wu as kind of like a pseudo quick buffer, because remember, she also does give the entire party that little quick buff. So being able to also give them a bit of crit damage and a little bit more NP might go a long way, especially because, as I've talked about, when you use Scotty setups, you're not really seeing her NP because you're not really doing a whole lot of arch chains. But if you do want to use Wu, you're getting a little bit of that extra NP in there to maybe make up for the fact that she only has 1 arts card. But that's not the only thing that we're going to be getting. We're going to be getting 3 command codes, the first of which, the 5-star Empress of the Hanging Gardens, I think is absolutely exceptional. It's going to give you a 10% NP damage buff for 1 turn when you use the engraved card, and it's going to bomb 2 stars. So you can literally just slap this on any single good DPS servant that you have, and they will absolutely love it. Doesn't really matter what card you put it on. You can be funny and put it on the arts card if you want to be like, hey, my arts card is genning stars. But realistically, you're going to click this card before you fire your NP in farming or whether it comes to CQs, just to get that little bit of extra damage. And that's why I'm a really big fan of this command code, because it's just going to be generally helpful to most players because it's just so generically good. The 4-star is also very strong, Tale of Rain and Stars. It's going to give you a 5% NP gain buff to the engraved card and increase the star weight of that card by 50%. I highly recommend maybe putting this on your arts cards, or if you have a very strong quick DPS like, say, Okita or Jack or Melt, someone that has very strong quick cards, you could get away with putting it on that. because getting that little bit of NP gain might be the difference between you fully refunding your NP or being stuck at, say, like 90-95%. You could be really funny and say put it on Skahawk's Buster card, because Skahawk or Summer Nobu are one of the very few servants that can refund a lot of NP on their Buster cards with an arts lead, but that's more of a gag thing that you can do. I don't think it's actually optimal or very good in any capacity, but if you wanted to be funny, you could do that. Otherwise, I recommend putting it on a DPS or a servant that you find that maybe does have a lower NP gain on some of their arts and quick cards to maybe buff them up. There's a few ways that you could apply this. I mean, I think a very funny one that you could do is put it on Ereshka Gull's arts card, because she already refunds so much, but if you got her NP3, you could just refund 200% on that arts card, especially with this being slapped on there. So again, just a very solid, good command code that we're getting. And then finally there's the 3-star one, which isn't the craziest, but it will be generally good in most boss battles because it removes the latest critical attack chance buff from the enemy and their critical damage up buff as well. So it's pretty much always going to be good in boss fights, as most bosses will at some point give themselves a crit damage buff. It's one of the more common things that bosses will give themselves if they don't natively already have it a part of their kit. It will just be something that they start off with or get at a break bar. So again, slap this on a servant that you frequently are bringing to CQ content, because hey, removing that critical chance up might save you in the long run in one of those boss fights. Maybe you don't have to take a massive crit or something. So that is always very nice. We're also going to be getting a free-to-play CE, as we mostly do in most events. And while I don't think it's the craziest free-to-play CE, it's not like Aerial Drive, Cranking, Honey Lake, what have you, any of the real broken ones, it's still nice if you're a newer player, because once you max limit break it, you're getting 10% quick in arts, 8% NP damage, and starting with a 50% battery, which can just be very good. It's very solid if you're going to be using a quick or arts looper or a quick or arts single target, by just giving you that little bit of extra NP gain and damage for your main card. And the NP damage can generally be used by most DPS servants. I say generally because you have people like, say, Super Orion or Chi Shi Huang who really can't make use of the NP damage, but why would you be using the Stars Holiday on them? It doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. But if you're more of a veteran player, you're just going to use this for the drop bonus on the little cone guys. So make sure you're kind of loading this up on some of your supports if you don't have the drop CEs from the gacha, to make sure you're just getting extra little dudes to make your farming just a little bit easier. Because what you can use the cone guys for is not only progressing the story, but you could also use them for the production quest to get some silver apples back. And I know, like everybody else, we just burned through our entire stash of apples, you know, during the lotto over there. So this is a great chance for you to kind of refill on those a little bit. Now, I mentioned earlier that the Trunk Sisters are going to be very good for the 90+ node. That is because it is a 1-3-1 node where a very large 182k dragon is on the first wave and a 219k Bradamante is on the final wave. So you start off really strong and you end at about the same level, but the Trunk Sisters, being a single target saber with 100% power mod bonus from the event, should be able to easily make quick work of both of these enemies. And so if you are able to pull them, they'll be absolutely phenomenal for that. But if you don't, and you need to kind of branch out and look at other options, since the first wave is a dragon and it's a lancer with earth attribute, you can easily bring somebody like Siegfried or Sigurd to kind of just chunk that guy and absolutely eviscerate them. Also, because they're earth, you could try to bring a Berserker Raiko or say a Koyan Dark if you have them high enough NP leveled, or if you've really invested in them. Maybe you got them to like level 120 in your gold photo, they might still be able to take it out with their power mod. And that's also kind of the good thing about Bradamante as well, is that if you're gonna bring an earth attribute person, like especially Koyan Dark with decent investment, you can just use them to easily buster farm this, because both the dragon and Bradamante are both earth attribute. But outside of that, Bradamante herself is lawful good. So if you have MHX Alter who has the good power mod, she can easily chunk the Bradamante. If you have Summer Say, who is also again a berserker, she has a lawful power mod, so you could also bring her. Although you might have to get lucky with some of your CE placements, you know, getting them to maximum broken so you have that 50%, or if you don't have them maximum broken, you might have to go for the append skill to get that extra 20%. and then rely on at least your own waiver plus a Castoria friend to get by with all the NP. But it shouldn't be that bad, especially if you maximum break the CE. You can give your single target, even someone like MHX Alter who doesn't have a battery, the max limit broken version, and then you only need to use Castoria's first skill and Waver's attack and defense skill to get her up to 100%. And then you still have the 20% targetable from Castoria and the 30% targetable from Waver over there. And then obviously results may vary with your MHX Alter, and depending on how much investment she has or your Summer Saiyan being able to loot back enough, maybe you're a little bit more reliant on face cards. Again, just an example for them, if you have a server with their own, 20-30% battery, it gets a bit more guaranteed because then you have anywhere from 70 to 80% NP laying around. But regardless, you might have to get a little creative in what single target you choose. As for the second wave, it's only 92k, so any decent AoE looper should be able to clear this. I mean, even say like an NP2 or 3 Gawain should be able to get this done. I know he's not like the most crazy damaging servant, but it's only 92k. It's like not that much. And keep in mind, your AoE should also still be getting the buff from Castoria's attack and waivers if you do have to use them, so they should be able to take out a 92k enemy. Everybody's got at least one decent enough AoE servant that should be able to chunk this. I think it's really going to be more of a struggle for taking out the single target guys, but if you need more help with that, we have our Discord linked in the description down below. If you join that, go to the Yugioh channel. If I'm not there, someone else can definitely help you out looking at some of your other servants, finding out if they can do enough damage, and just helping you in general find some setups. But then finally, what kind of FGO event would it be if there wasn't a new servant to go ahead and get? The primary banner is going to be the Trunk Sisters, who I already did a video on. If you want to see my thoughts on that, check a couple days ago. I already have that one up. But then it's also going to be bringing Summer Melt Lilith back, and that's why I feel a lot of people might be going in on this banner, because Summer Melt Lilith is not only a really good looping servant, but she's also a servant you want to get higher NP copies of. Again, I kind of liken her to Summer Mordred a bit, where they are both exceptionally good loopers. They just have very low base NP1 damage. You can still get away with it, as my Summer Melt is NP1 over on JP, but you got to get a little bit more creative if you're going to be using NP1. Sometimes it does come down to using face cards. So if you go for NP2, 3, 4, maybe if you're really crazy, go for NP5, she will definitely put in some work for you. But if you're going to go for NP5, definitely make sure that she's like your main looper or something, because we don't have the buff 4-star rates yet, so you're going to definitely be going in. But hey, if you pick up the Trunk Sisters along the way, they got their own 30% battery, like I was saying for the 90+ node. Having your own battery plus them being arts for higher NP refund on their own very high hit NP should allow them to just kind of clean that up for you. So you might get lucky and have an easier time farming the node. As far as the CEs that are going on raid up, there is a really cute Ereshkigal one that I love, but it's not the craziest. I mean, you're getting a little bit of NP charge every single turn, a bit of NP gain, and a little bit of NP damage. It's not bad, but it's also not the greatest thing in the world. If you don't have anything better, like say a Prisma Cosmos, a 2030, a Black Grail, even a Heaven's Field to throw on your main DPS for a challenge quest, or even Volumen, this might suffice as a decent enough CE, because it is giving you effects that pretty much every single DPS can use. Everybody wants to get a little bit of extra NP every single turn. Everybody likes having a little bit of extra NP gain. Again, NP damage, maybe not for like your Super Orions or your Qi Shi Huangs, but literally anybody else can really make use of that. So it's not the worst thing ever. There's also a Star Bomb CE on the 4-star CE as well, which if you're more reliant on face cards and you do summon on this banner, this could help you on the 90+ node by bombing a little bit of extra stars. Maybe you could just crit the dragon down if you have to do that. But then the 3-star, there's really no point in even talking about that one. I mean, dude, getting plus 10 HP per turn is a little bit ridiculous. But what I imagine a lot of people are going to be waiting for is going to be the Morgan banner, who's going to be bringing Wu on right up alongside her. Now, your boy could go on about Morgan all day, every day, talking about how good she is, but I'm sure a lot of you guys could check like the 8 videos I've made on Morgan and just see for yourselves how good she is. But if you think, well, ZTO, you have Morgan NP5 and now level 115, we're getting closer to that 120, but I have her such high investment. That's the only reason she's good. Don't worry, on JP, I have a very low investment Morgan. She's only grailed to 100, and she is only NP1, and she still puts in work. It just means that sometimes in CQs, it takes her an extra 10 turns to take somebody out, but she still gets the job done. I mean, that's still how I took out Demeter over on the JP side of things. Because even though her natural NP damage might be a little low, don't forget she can still crit really hard with that third skill. Now Wu, on the other hand, I'm not the biggest fan of, but she's a decent servant. Like I was talking about when she's getting her buff, you can use her to kind of make your teams feel a bit better by giving a little bit of extra crit damage to guys and a little bit of extra NP. That can be kind of nice, but if you happen to go really hard on the banner for Morgan and you end up getting like NP5 Wu over there, she could put a little bit of work, she can be kind of nice with it. But not the craziest servant I've ever seen. But with all that being said, that should be everything for Sea Monsters Crisis. You should have a very strong idea of what is going to be going on in this event. Don't worry, this is going up, I think, day 2 of the event or something, so you haven't missed out on much. It's going to be a 3-week-long event anyway, so you got plenty of time to catch up. Make sure you're on task farming the little cone guys, and you should be absolutely A-okay. But with that being said, let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. Are you excited about this event? Is it kind of meh for you? Are you looking forward to maybe the Trung sisters? Are you that guy that's a huge fan of their lore? Which I actually have to read the event to find out what's up with them, and I gotta find out why Morgan is coming to the beach. So you know that I'm gonna be reading this, well, probably after the entire thing is done, because I don't like waiting every single day. That kind of bothered me with Tugunska. But let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. Have yourselves a nice day, and I'll catch you guys on the flippity floppity.